Hey, welcome back to Growing Resilient with Heather. I am so glad that you joined me for this episode. As promised in my last episode, I am going to tell you all about my memoir, Seal in the Desert, Moving Past Feeling Stuck. So, I released this book about a month ago, and it's my story. So, it is very sad, and it is a tough story to read. In fact, I've had some friends ask, is it fiction? And sometimes I'll just look at them and I'll say, hey, I wish it was. That would make it a lot easier to read, but it is true. This is my experience of being in a toxic marriage and not listening to the signs that I should have, just completely betraying myself, giving all of life to someone else to try to better their mental health. And it broke me. So this book is kind of my way of celebrating that I am still here. I have chosen to continue living, and that sounds so tough. And if you know me, if you've known me for the past 5, 8 years, you probably know I've always been such a happy person. And maybe you didn't notice the light that dimmed. I think all of us have this huge, beautiful light inside of us, and it's all about what we choose to do with that light, because others can take that light away from us, and that's essentially what happened to me, but it happened very gradually. Anyways, that is basically Seal in the Desert in a nutshell, but I want to tell you what some of my friends and family have said about it. I've had a lot of people tell me that it's a very easy read. In fact, it's like 190 pages, 193 pages to be exact. But I have some friends that have said I cannot put it down. I finished it all in one day. And now I'm going to read you something one of my friends told me. She said, I know everyone has been saying that they're proud of you, and I don't want it to sound cliche or just something to say, because I don't think I could have done what you did. I don't think I could have handled it the way that you did. And maybe you don't think you did at the time, but every day that you chose to wake up, to still find reasons to be alive, and for that, you are just about the most resilient person I know. And then I also have some friends that know my story, and it's taken them a little longer to read just because it is so heartbreaking. But through the heartbreak, there is so much hope. For me, Seal in the Desert is the story that I needed when I first got into this relationship, and when my self-image and my confidence started to change. It is the book that I'm hoping that others can give to someone who is in a toxic or an unhealthy relationship, because I had so many family and friends that didn't know what to say, and maybe they thought they were wrong about it. But if I had this book, if this was a tool that I could have seen and I could have read about how someone's charisma, livelihood, passion, how their essence as a human was being chipped away, I'm sure that I would have realized, hey, this is happening to me and I need to do something about it. So I'm trying to get this book into the right hands and to the people that will benefit from it most. I have promised for every 10 books that I sell, I'm going to ship off a book to someone that I find, whether it's a family friend or someone from social media that is going through a tough time, who is in a toxic relationship, who needs that wake-up call. So if you know someone who you think could benefit from Seal in the Desert, hit me up, send me a DM or a text, or find me on Instagram. That'd probably be the easiest, and send me a DM. Adventure awaits Heather, and I just want to be able to give back to people that have been in tough places, because I've been there when the light around you feels like it's closing in and you don't know where to turn for help. I was a buoy for my late husband, and he chipped away at my buoyancy. Then one day I couldn't take it. I couldn't lift him up. I couldn't help him float anymore. And I stood up for myself, and that's when everything changed. But enough about all the sad stuff in Seal in the Desert. It kind of goes over my experience over the last 8, 9 months after I lost him to suicide. It talks about all of the hope that I've found and the confidence that I've regained. And I've talked on here so much about how the gym has made such a difference in my mental health and in my confidence, my self-image, and that's a big part of it. I went from being not able to eat anything just because of grief to now being more aware of what I'm eating and how it fuels my body. Going to the gym was really my way of first starting to eat again. If you want to check out why I've talked about that, it's in the previous episodes. Got a couple of other episodes on this podcast, so feel free to check them out. You might be wondering why Seal in the Desert is called that. And when I lived off grid for about 6 months in the Mojave Desert, the people who we rented property from in the desert, they bought their house and there were seals that previously lived in these swimming pools. I really don't know if these seals knew any better. They had water, I'm sure they were getting their fish or whatever they were eating, but they were stuck. They were stuck in these pools in the middle of the desert and they didn't belong there. And that's exactly how I was. I was confined to these concrete walls, and if I would have tried to leave the relationship, I was threatened that my late husband would take his life. And I didn't know what to do. I don't think anyone should ever be a seal in the desert because no one should be stuck where they don't belong. Seal in the Desert is all about my journey of getting to know myself and my healing. And it reminds me of a song called Know Yourself by Bliss in Esso Fergus James. And now I'm going to attempt at singing just a portion of this, but I highly encourage you to check out this song because it is so hopeful. No, you don't have to run away. Lose yourself like your tears in the rain. Let your better angels break you out of this hell because your soul's gold. Know yourself. For a while, I had no clue who I was, and I completely lost myself. And that is the power of my book, Seal in the Desert, because I talk about finding myself again and how I went through these extremely dark times and how I decided to persevere on the other side. And I hope that when you are thrown these life challenges, I hope and I pray that you will find yourself. So, one of the things that I have come to terms with is knowing that everything I've experienced has made me who I am. And there's a song by Christina Perri called I Believe. And I'm going to sing a portion of it because this just really spoke to my heart. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I wrote Seal in the Desert. I wish that you could see your scars turn into beauty. I believe that today it's okay to be not okay. We're going to have days where we feel like we're not okay, where we feel like we're not making the progress that we want to. And no matter what you've gone through, you can choose to grow through it. Seal in the Desert is all about the trauma that I had endured. There was this fork in the pathway where I decided I wasn't going to let the trauma that I endured become the only part to my story that matters. I decided that just because this happened to me does not mean that I need to stop living. And just by looking around and seeing all the beautiful miracles around me, I have been so fulfilled because I decided to take that leap and say, what if I can jump past this grief? What if I can jump past this trauma? What if I can explore everything that I was feeling? And at first, it started as journal entries. And I never imagined writing a book. Oh my gosh, I'm crying as I'm saying this. I never imagined writing a book or sharing this story in this format. But if it's something that can help someone else that is in a toxic relationship, that is all that matters. There was another person who lived off grid, Gabby Petito. And when her life was taken, I realized that I have the power, I have the voice to be able to tell this story. And I'm going to. And so I think of all of the people who aren't widespread in this world, who don't get so much social media attention when their life is taken because of a toxic relationship that they were in. And that is exactly who I'm writing this book for, because I am very lucky to still be here. Things could have ended very differently, and I will forever use my voice to tell this story. Anyways, if you're interested in this book, it's available on Amazon. I try to also have a couple copies on hand if you're local to me. And please, if you know someone who is in a toxic relationship, someone who is having their self confidence, their identity chipped away, tell them about this book. Maybe buy them a copy. In fact, I know my family and friends didn't know how to tell me. And this is the tool that I wrote for the family and friends. I just want them to be able to hand a copy of this book to someone who needs to hear these words. Anyways, thank you so much if you are one of my 2 listeners who decided to just check in on this podcast. You mean the world to me. Never be a seal in the desert. Do not let the walls or this pool hold you in. Don't stay where you don't belong. You deserve a love that grows you. You deserve to be genuine. You deserve to be yourself and have people around you just support you and want the best for you. And it makes such an incredibly huge difference when you do find someone who grows you and who helps you be the best version of yourself. And that's probably something you don't get to experience when you are in a toxic relationship. I am talking from my own experience. Anyways, hang in there. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Get your copy of Seal in the Desert. It's available on Amazon. And I want you to pause and think about someone who needs to read this story, someone who could benefit, someone who you can just break that ice and tell them you are in an unhealthy relationship. Actually, boom, you don't even have to tell them that. Have them read Seal in the Desert, and maybe they will come to that decision themselves. Make sure you tell your friends and family how much you love them, and keep growing resilient, friends.